They canceled my Christmas invitation because I wasn't good enough to be around their investor guests. What they didn't know is that I was the investor. If they knew what I had signed that morning, they would have begged me to come. Before we go on, if you've ever been underestimated by your own family, subscribe, like, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Their fake smiles turned to fear the second my name popped up on the contract. It started 2 weeks before Christmas. My sister Emily called me out of nowhere. Fake sweet as always. "Susan, hey. Just a heads up, we're doing something really elegant this year for Christmas. Dad invited some real investors to the house. I hope you understand. It's just not the right crowd for, She didn't finish the sentence, but I knew what she meant. Not the right crowd for someone like me. The girl who didn't go to business school, who worked from coffee shops and wasted years, building a little software company no one cared about. They never asked what I was building, never cared. They thought I was broke. So this year, I wasn't invited. Not because I did something wrong, but because I didn't fit the perfect image they wanted to show off to their rich guests. It hurt. A lot more than I expected. My mom didn't even call. My dad sent a one-line email. "Hope you understand. Family's doing what's best." Best for who? Meanwhile, they were bragging on Facebook about a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity involving some massive real estate deal. They were partnering with a tech investor. Confidential, of course. I stayed quiet. I didn't reply. But I knew something they didn't. The company funding their entire real estate venture? The investor they were praying would sign off? Me. 6 months ago, I sold a majority share in Knoll, my app, to a holding company that reinvested in emerging markets, especially family-run real estate projects. And just 2 days before Emily called, they offered me a chance to personally approve or deny final project deals. My lawyer said I could stay anonymous, but now I didn't want to stay anonymous. I wanted them to know. I wanted them to feel what it's like to be judged, to be excluded, to be told you're not good enough. So when the final documents for their dream project came to my desk, I picked up my pen and I signed. But not the approval. I signed the termination clause. And just like that, their entire deal fell apart. They didn't know yet, but they were about to find out. The email hit their inbox at exactly 9:01 a.m. Subject line: Investment partnership terminated, effective immediately. My sister Emily was the first to call me. No greeting. No fake sweetness this time. "What the hell did you do?" I smiled. "Good morning to you too, Emily." "Don't play games, Susan," she snapped. "The investor pulled out. Our deal's dead. We already told everyone it was happening. Dad is losing his mind. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I leaned back in my chair, calm as ever. "I do, actually. I read the deal. Every line, every clause, every lie." She went silent. "You think I wouldn't notice that the pitch deck you sent the investor included my old prototype? My idea, my algorithm, my intellectual property. You tried to sell it off like it was yours." More silence. Then, a shaky voice. "You were never supposed to see that. And yet I did," I said. "Right before I signed the clause that killed the entire project." She hung up. 5 minutes later, my dad called. "Susan," he started, trying to sound calm. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No, Dad, there wasn't." "Listen," he said, voice tightening. "That deal was everything. We brought in top-tier people. You don't understand the pressure." "You mean pressure like being disinvited from Christmas because I didn't fit in with your elite investor friends? Or pressure like being used without even knowing it?" His silence told me everything. But what he said next, that's when the anger hit. He muttered, "You've always been too sensitive. That's why you were never cut out for real business." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was typical. They could mock me, use me, erase me. But the second I fought back, suddenly I was the problem. I ended the call with one sentence. I didn't need your invitation. I built my own table. That afternoon, something strange happened. My cousin Ben, the only one in the family who never judged me, sent me a screenshot of the family group chat. It was blowing up. Emily was spiraling, trying to figure out who the anonymous investor was that pulled out. Dad was blaming the legal team. Mom was crying, apparently saying, "Why would Susan do this to us?" They still didn't know it was me. But that night, they would, because I had one final move to make. Something that would leave no doubt who held the power now, and it was going to be public. I walked into the Christmas party they uninvited me from, wearing a red dress they'd never forget. Everyone froze. Champagne glasses paused midair. Fake smiles dropped. Conversations stopped cold. I could feel every eye in that room crawling over me. Not in admiration, but confusion, fear, shame. I walked slowly, deliberately, across the marble floor they'd spent tens of thousands on for this event. The same one they said I wasn't fit for. Emily's mouth was slightly open, her husband's hand tightening around his wine. Glass. My mother looked like she'd seen a ghost. And my dad? He stood near the fireplace, pale as the snow outside. I didn't speak right away. I didn't need to, because as I reached into my bag and pulled out the official envelope, gold stamped with the logo of the investment firm, I already saw the panic in his eyes. He knew. I handed it to him. "Thought you might want the updated investor list," I said, cool and calm. He opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper. One line. "This project has been terminated by executive authority. Susan Miller, strategic investment partner." His hands dropped. The room fell into stunned silence. And then, slowly, people started whispering. Wait, she was the investor? Susan? The one they said was broke? Didn't she build some kind of software company? That's when I took the mic. Yep. I walked right up to the mic stand meant for my father's investor welcome speech and looked out at the crowd of wealthy liars and status-obsessed phonies. "You know, I was told not to come tonight," I said. "I was told I wouldn't fit in with this crowd, that I was too small, too insignificant." I looked at my family. But I wasn't too small to be used, right? To have my work stolen. My algorithms copied. My silence assumed. Now the crowd was dead quiet. Even the band had stopped playing. But I stayed quiet. I watched. I waited. And while you laughed at me, while you whispered about how I never amounted to anything, I built something real, something powerful. I held up my phone, and since I'm such an embarrassment, I figured I'd make my exit official. I tapped the screen and sent a live email blast to every investor in that room, revealing my ownership, their IP violation, and a formal notice that any future attempt to move forward with my code would result in immediate legal action. Phones started buzzing, people started checking their screens, faces dropped. A few investors left the party right then and there. Emily looked like she was about to pass out. My father tried to speak, but no sound came out. And I just smiled, then turned and walked out the door they once slammed shut on me. But the best part? I wasn't done yet. Because what they didn't know was that I hadn't just stopped their deal. I had redirected it to someone else. The deal they lost? I handed it to my old college roommate, Jenna, the one they used to call a waste of space, because she dropped out to start her own interior design firm. 2 months ago, she told me she needed a break, that big-name developers weren't giving her a chance despite her talent, so I made her a quiet offer. I said, You design it, I'll fund it. And together, we'll build what they couldn't. And now, that same land my family tried to develop, the one they were bragging about at dinner tables, flaunting as their legacy project, it was officially under new ownership. Jenna's, with me as silent partner. And the kicker? The new project would be branded with her name, right across the street from my parents' office building. Big, bold letters, lit up at night. I wish you could have seen my father's face the day they put up the construction banner. Jenna, Scott Design and Development, funded by SM Ventures. He stared at it for a full 5 minutes, jaw clenched, before walking away without a word. That was the moment it hit them. I wasn't just someone they could push aside. I wasn't their little side character anymore. I was the storm they never saw coming. And just when they thought it couldn't get worse, I was invited to speak at the annual Investor Summit, the one they used to attend to pitch their dreams. This year, I was on the main stage. They were in the audience. And what I said that day? It made sure they'd never forget who Susan Miller really was. I stood on the stage, staring out at the sea of suits and judgmental eyes, the same types who once smirked when I introduced myself as a founder working from her garage. Only this time they weren't smirking. They were listening, because right behind me, on the massive LED screen, was the headline that had dropped just 15 minutes before I took the mic. SM Ventures acquires full stake in Westwood Tech Holdings. In a $140 million deal. It was official. I had just bought out the very parent company that originally backed my family's failed development project. And now, I owned it all. The platform, the patents, the leverage. And with one move, I'd cut off every future route they could have taken to get their project back on track. I took a slow breath and began. I was told once, I said, voice steady, that success requires the right family, the right school, and the right kind of connections. That someone like me, quiet, unfashionable, building apps alone, could never make it. A few people nodded. Some looked down. But here's the truth, I continued. You don't need anyone's permission to become powerful. You just need focus, pain, and a reason to keep going when they laugh at you. Then I paused and looked straight at the front row, where my father sat, shoulders stiff. Emily was beside him, expression frozen like she'd swallowed a mouthful of nails. I kept going. They canceled my invitation to Christmas because I was too small for their world. But this Christmas, I bought the building they had their party in. So next year, if they want to gather there again, I smiled, they'll be paying me rent. Laughter erupted across the room, genuine, stunned, electric. But I wasn't done yet. I stepped forward, calm but with fire in my chest. They say revenge isn't worth it. That you should move on, forgive, forget. But some people don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve to remember. A full silence now. I let that line settle. Then said quietly, remember how you made people feel. Remember who you left out. Because the ones you ignore on the way up might just own the ladder one day. The applause was deafening. And it wasn't just claps. People were standing. Investors, founders, strangers who had never heard my name an hour ago. But the ones who knew me, the ones who wrote me off, they couldn't even look me in the eyes. After the summit, as I was walking to my car, a voice called out behind me. Susan, wait. I turned. It was my mom. Her eyes were glassy, not from joy, from shame. I didn't know, she said softly. I didn't know how strong you were. I looked at her, and for a second, that old ache returned, the one that begged for her approval, her warmth. But it was gone as quickly as it came. You didn't want to know, I replied gently. And now, it's too late. She blinked, opened her mouth to say something, then shut it again. I walked away without waiting for an apology. Because this story, it was never about getting back in. It was about building something so big, so undeniable that the very people who left you out had to sit in silence while you soared. I got in my car, shut the door, and for the first time in years, maybe ever, I felt free. And as I pulled away from the building I now owned, I whispered to myself, "This year, Christmas came early."